A single Azure region outage can cripple Azure Virtual Desktop, but it doesn't have to. Let's learn how a new AVD feature makes it far more reliable and resilient. Hey everyone, I'm Travis and welcome back to Seraltos. Today we're diving into a new AVD feature in preview at the time of recording called Regional Host Pools. This feature significantly improves reliability and resilience while providing better control over data sovereignty. And make sure to stick around to the end for some important information you need to be aware of while this feature is in preview. Before we jump in, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend or colleague. Also, check out my courses over at udemy.com. The link is below. And a big shout out to my channel members. Thanks so much for your support. All right, let's get back into it. To understand why regional host pools matter, we first need to look at how deployment scopes in AVD work today. And to do that, we need to zoom out and talk briefly about how data is organized in Azure. In Azure, resources are deployed to regions, and regions are grouped into geographies. A geography might be a single country like the United States, or it could be a collection of regions like Asia Pacific. These geographies are typically defined to help with data sovereignty requirements. But for this discussion, you can think of a geography as simply a collection of Azure regions. Today, AVD control plane metadata, things like information about a workspace or host pool, is stored in a database within an Azure geography. That database is replicated multiple times within the region, and it's also replicated to a paired region for resiliency. The important thing to understand is that the metadata database might live in a completely different Azure region than where your session host and host pools are actually deployed. And that's where the problem comes in. A host pool could be running perfectly fine in one Azure region, but it's still dependent on the availability of another region where that metadata is stored. If there's an outage or an issue in the region hosting the metadata database, it can impact host pools that aren't even running there. That's exactly the issue that regional host pools were designed to solve. With regional host pools, AVD metadata is stored regionally in supported Azure regions instead of being shared across the geography. That way, if there's an issue in a region, the impact is limited to the host pools in the same Azure region, significantly reducing cross-region dependencies and improving overall resilience and reliability. This means there will be around 40 regional metadata databases across Azure. And while these databases don't store user data, it does make it much easier to meet data sovereignty requirements because your AVD metadata now lives in the same Azure region as your host pools. Regional host pools also improve resilience at the infrastructure level. The AVD metadata is stored across availability zones within a region, and it's still replicated to a paired region for protection. So overall, the metadata platform itself becomes more reliable and resilient, while giving organizations tighter regional control. Now, it's important to note that regional host pools can coexist with the existing geography-based host pool model. Microsoft recommends using regional host pools once this feature is generally available. And at some point in the future, the old geography-based metadata model won't be allowed anymore. While this feature is still in preview, only East US 2 and Central US are supported. If you want to try it out today, the first step is to enable the preview feature. And remember, this step is only required while the feature is in preview. To register, go to your subscription, then open Settings and Preview Features. Search for AVD Regional Resources Public Preview. Select it, click Register, and then click OK to confirm. Once that's enabled, if you select an Azure region that supports regional host pools, you'll notice a new deployment scope setting. It defaults to geographical, but now you can switch it to regional. And that's actually the only configuration change when creating a regional host pool. However, because the metadata lives in a separate infrastructure, you can't mix regional and geographical resources within a host pool. When you associate a host pool to a workspace, for example, only existing regional workspaces will be available. You won't be able to select a workspace that's configured as geographical. Regional and geographical AVD resources simply can't be mixed. After you've created regional host pools, the Azure portal clearly shows whether a host pool or workspace is regional or geographical under the deployment scope column. Finally, there are some important limitations while this feature is still in preview. Automated host pools with session host configuration and session host updates aren't supported. Private endpoints aren't supported. Dynamic auto-scaling isn't available, and app attach isn't supported either. Microsoft also has confirmed that there will be a process to migrate existing AVD resources to regional objects in the future. Hopefully this gives you a much clearer picture of how regional host pools in Azure Virtual Desktop improves reliability, resilience, and regional control. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.